So tonight we're going to be making black bean soup.
We're going to begin with the ingredients. I'm going to use 3 cans of black beans. These are reduced sodium. You can just use regular black beans with the regular amount of salt. These are just the ones I picked up, and I'll add salt for taste later. I have some chicken stock here. If you want to go vegetarian, you can just use vegetable stock. That's just a personal choice. I'm going to go with the chicken stock. In terms of my veggies, I have 1 red bell pepper, 1 yellow onion, some limes I'm going to use for lime juice later, 4 ribs of celery. I have 2 large carrots I already cut up. I have some garlic I'm going to use, some fresh oregano. It's also very common to use cilantro in this recipe. I'm not going to use that today, but if you have cilantro, feel free to add that. And I should say we also need a blender for this recipe that I'll be using at the end. I'm going to be starting this on the stovetop in a Dutch oven. And in terms of spice or seasoning, we have salt and pepper for taste. We're definitely going to need some red crushed pepper, or crushed red pepper I should say, some cumin, and I like cayenne pepper. That's not always in this, but that's something I like to add because I like a little more of a kick to it. And some olive oil, of course, for the pan. And this is some of the more like optional items at the end. We have some shredded cheese you can add in. We have some sour cream, some avocados, of course. I'm out here in California, so we're going to go with those, and some tortillas. All right, so let's get started. In the last few minutes, I cut up the vegetables. What we're going to do is we're going to start on the stovetop in a Dutch oven at medium heat. I added some olive oil to the pan and brought it up to medium heat, and it's been there for a few minutes, so the pan is hot. Just adding the onions in, and I'm also going to add in some of the other vegetables. I'm going to start with the onion, and I'm also going to add the red bell pepper, the celery, and the carrots. That's quite a bit in the pan right now. What's going to happen as I cook it is going to soften up and get a little bit smaller, and I'm just going to leave this on the stove for about 10 minutes with the cover on, and then I'm going to check back in on it, and then I'm going to add the garlic and the oregano. So 10 minutes has passed and the vegetables have softened up, so now I'm going to add the garlic and the fresh oregano. I'm also going to add the seasoning now. I'm going to do the crushed red pepper, some ground cumin, and some cayenne. I'm going to be careful with the cayenne because obviously there's quite a bit of kick from that, so use that at your own discretion depending on how much spice you want. Alright, and I will check back in with you in a few minutes when I add the beans and the soup. Okay, so a few minutes has gone by and the flavor from the oregano and the garlic has been released. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to add the black beans in. So I drained the beans of the liquid a bit, but I did leave some in there. And then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add the chicken stock. And so I'm going to mix that in. I did 2 cans of beans and 2 cups of chicken stock. I actually intend to add 1 more of each, but I just wanted to show you this first. And I'll do the rest off camera. So it's just, depending on how much beans you want in it, it's going to be 1 cup of chicken stock or chicken soup per can of beans, and I'm using a standard like 15-ounce can of Bush's black beans. And I'm also going to add some salt now. Like I said, I'm just going to add the last can of beans, the next cup of chicken stock, and I'm going to let this come up to a simmer for about 15 minutes, and then I'll check back in with you with the next step. Okay, so 15 minutes has gone by, and as you can see, it's simmering. What I'm going to do is I'm going to squeeze some lime juice right into it. So I cut up a lime in half, and I squeeze some in now, and I'm also going to squeeze a little bit more in at the very end. So the next step is we're actually going to transfer a proportion of this into a blender. So if you have a blender, please get that ready now. What we want to do is try to thicken up the soup. So you're going to need a blender and a ladle, or you can just, if you have a measuring cup, you can use a measuring cup as well, but I'm going to use a blender and a ladle to do this final step. Okay, so what I'm doing now is I'm transferring some of the soup into a blender. I think I got, let's see, I've got about 2.5 cups. I may end up doing a little bit more, but I'm going to start there. And I'm just going to put it on for approximately a minute. I'm not going to film all of it, but just to give you an idea, I have this Ninja blender here, and I'm just going to put it, just going to blend it up for approximately a minute. Okay, so that was only a few seconds, but I'll finish it off camera, and I'll show you what it's going to look like. It's going to thicken it up, and we're going to add that back into the soup to make it a bit thicker. So there's a little bit of an art to this side of it. I don't have it exactly down to a science with the exact measurements, but I'm going to use at least a few cups, and depending on how thick we like it, we can blend up more of the soup and add it back in. And just to show you, this is what was remaining of the soup. So the majority of it is still in there. So it's just really comes down to your personal preference on how thick you want the soup to be. Okay, I'll check back in with you in a few. Okay, so just checking back in with you, I actually ended up adding quite a bit more into the blender. I ended up with double, so 5 cups, because I wanted it thicker. And so what I'm going to do now is just transfer it right back into that Dutch oven I cooked the soup in originally, and it's really going to thicken it up. And again, I know I'm repeating myself, but just to be clear, this part is just really about what you prefer, how thick you want the soup to be. I tend to like it more on the thicker side, the creamier side, and I'm just going to use this wooden spoon to stir it in. So you can see it's quite a bit thicker now. It's not just soupy, if you will. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to let that set for a bit. Don't have to cook it anymore, obviously, but I'm just going to let it sit and put the lid back on, have all the flavors stay in, and I'm going to add some of the good stuff, some of the cheese and other toppings at the very end, and show you the final product. Okay, so this is our final product. This is the black bean soup, and you can see I added some good stuff in here. I have fresh avocado, some sour cream, some shredded cheese, and the tortillas, and some lime to squeeze on, some more lime juice. It came out really good, and I hope you guys enjoy. Please subscribe and like the video.